Financial Planner. Follow us on YouTube.
Suarez. Bernie is a writer with a background in medicine, psychology, and information technology. He is the author of The Art of Overcoming the New World Order and has written numerous articles over the years about freedom, government, corruption, conspiracies, and solutions. Bernie is also the creator of the Truth and Art TV project at truthandarttv.com. And you can also see his work on his YouTube channel. He has 2 channels now. He has his backup channel, which he's working on. I'll put all the links at the bottom of the video.
Thank you for bringing me back. I don't remember the last time I was back. It was about a year or two. But I'm excited to be back on your show, Dave.
Yeah, it's been a while, and I was listening to you, and you were talking about Q, and that's what I wanted to talk about today. I wanted to talk about, what is this Q phenomenon? A lot of people don't believe it. There are certain people that absolutely believe it. If you could just break it down, give us a brief summary of what is Q and why. I mean, is it a he, a she, a group of people? What do you know about Q and why is Q continually dropping hints on what is going on in government?
I would begin by saying, Dave, that you do not show up to a gunfight with a knife. A lot of us have heard that phrase before. And if you turn back the clock to about 2013, when anyone awakened, or anyone who has any sensitivity to corruption, was buried psychologically in what we know as the 8 years of Obama and all the corruption years of Obama and all these things, and how patriots were being attacked and oppressed. I mean, look at Lavoy Finicum and all the stuff with the Bundy Ranch. But right around 2013, a lot of people were reporting back, and I remember Sibel Edmonds comes to mind, former FBI whistleblower, and others were saying that a deep state war had began right around that time. And I was covering back then how back then there was a plan, there was a desire amongst patriots, amongst military insiders, generals, and military intelligence that they had seen enough, and they wanted to bring down Barack Obama, this phony president. So that plan was put on ice, and people can take this for what it is and research this, but essentially a different plan was put into place, Dave, and that plan was a more civil plan. And it was a plan that today is being mentioned by QAnon, and I'll get to the origin of Q and QAnon, because QAnon says today, trust the plan. So what you're asking me is, what is this thing? So the first thing I would say to your audience is QAnon is a phenomenon. And to complete my story, this plan was put into place to not overthrow Obama, but instead bring in someone, a patriot, someone who they felt could get it done. And that person is Donald J. Trump. So patriots within the military and people within the military intelligence and others, they came up with a plan basically to roll out Donald Trump to the chagrin. And people, believe me, you said a lot of people don't believe it. And I cover this in my podcast. Yeah, I could tell you who those people are. The liberal left, anyone who's believes mainstream media news, anyone. And the other group who's having a big problem with this are the anarchists, people who only believe in self-determination. But as I started covering in my podcast, as soon as Donald Trump was elected, I told people, figure out what is it that you believe in, because that's going to determine whose side you're on. So to keep going with the answer to your question, this plan was put into place. And to fast forward to what's going on today, after Trump was elected, of course, we saw the WikiLeaks, all these revelations started coming out, and the plan had already been in place. But the plan really took off, Dave, right after the Las Vegas shooting on October 1st of 2017. And several days later, about 4 days later, on that Thursday, October 6th, was when Trump had a dinner meeting with military insiders. And after that meeting, he came out and said this was the calm before the storm. And it was after that Thursday, October 6th, when this whole craziness began. And it was about 3 weeks later when the anonymous poster, a series of people, I believe is more than just one person, these people are working with the president, and the Q stands for Q level clearance. And right around October 28th, 29th, Q, what we were referring to then as Q Anonymous. So people said, well, it's Q Anon. They were posting on 4chan. That soon merged to 8chan, these different image posting websites where people have conversations and all that. So, that's what started all this. And these patriots, and in fact, Dave, I will read for everyone's sake on October 29th, the fourth post ever by these patriots calling themselves Q level clearance, which is, by the way, the highest level clearance that anyone can have in terms of military clearance, intelligence clearance. QAnon posted, "Some of us come here to drop crumbs, just crumbs." And I'm not going to read anything more than that. So that's a reminder to everyone, as I tell my audience, that this is a group of people. It says it right there, some of us. So these different patriots inside of the Trump administration have been laying out a plan to awaken the masses. Not you and I, Dave, not people who were making these videos, because I've been making videos. I've been all the stuff that QAnon, well, a lot of what he's covering, guys like you and I and many other researchers, we've been covering this for years. So it's not that, but the average person out there, the average normie, or as Q sometimes refers to them as, the average person, there's a lot of this stuff they have not heard. They can't understand it, but now they're getting it. So this is a plan to slowly awaken the masses by dropping crumbs, as he calls it, but he puts it in the form of a question most often, because by doing so, he's essentially not telling you what to think. He is telling you what you need to research. Big difference. So by doing that, people are doing the research and discovering that these things make sense. They're able to connect dots. This process of dot connection is what QAnon refers to, and many of us do, the Great Awakening, because it's happening slowly but surely. And there have been many, many instances where QAnon has posted something before the president does on his Twitter, or the Department of Defense on their Twitter, or other social media. There have been a lot of incidences like this. Anyone who's been following this, and a lot of different events that QAnon said, watch out for this. And sure enough, a day or 2 days later, or a week or 2 weeks later, it happens. Something relevant to what he was telling you was going to happen. So as I say, at this point, no one should be questioning whether QAnon is coming from the White House, because not only has he posted images from Air Force One and things like that, but he's posted many, many things in coordination with things that Trump has said, where you wouldn't be able to do that unless you were on Trump's side, unless you were inside the White House. Whether you think that QAnon is a psyop is another story, but that alone requires proof as well. So I tell people, if you think it is, then prove it, because I can show you where a lot of many, many things that QAnon is pointing us to not only have come to pass, but more importantly, he's exposing things that many of us knew were there already: pedophilia, criminality, money laundering, deep state events, and all the stuff that we could go on, but we don't have enough time, right? All of these things he's pointing to are things that are real and people need to look into.
You're thinking this is like you said in the beginning, this is a group of individuals, and the president is part of this group who's feeding this information to these boards. Why do they have to use like code words or codes? Why can't they just come out and say it, like, oh, by the way, this is what's going to happen next, take a look? Why do they have to break it down into, like RT days after, RT Kenya, no coincidences? Why can't they just come out and say it? Is there a reason?
Yeah, there is, I believe. One of the reasons I already mentioned, they want you to do the thinking as opposed to someone telling you what to think. I think that people become more defensive when they're being told, look, listen to me, I have all the answers, as opposed to me saying to you, what if this is going to happen? So it kind of forces you to think on your own. That's one of the main reasons. Number two, if we study the QAnon postings from early on. I'm talking late October, early November. QAnon, and I'm going to cover this in my podcast this weekend for anyone on my Truth in Our TV podcast. So QAnon actually tells you why they are not going any faster. And people, the typical, these people online saying, well, why don't we see Hillary Clinton in handcuffs? This is what everyone wants to see. And there's an answer to that. Exactly. And QAnon actually answers that early on, right from the beginning, towards the very end of October, which is in the first 10 or 15 posts, I believe. QAnon says that they had to move slow for optical reasons, quote unquote. And then he also says, because if they didn't, he poses a question, what if, and I don't have the exact quote in front of me, basically, what if Soros unleashed a swarm of terrorism throughout the whole country in response to this overt, fast justice, to this, arresting people like Hillary right in your face, right for everyone to see. So he's basically telling you that the price to pay is too much. And for that reason, they came up with a plan that will sweep the enemy, the deep state, from the bottom up instead of the top down. So here's a catch to all of this, and people should look at this, and I'll share this with your audience today because I haven't done this with my audience yet. And that is, people today, as you know, Dave, everyone, a lot of people are raised on, video games, and everything is fast moving, quick entertainment, immediate gratification. And so this is applied today. A lot of people want to see instant results. It's like instant coffee. Everybody wants everything to happen in 1 week. Otherwise, it must be a psyop. And unfortunately, that's not the way these things work. If you ask anybody who's worked in the military or in intelligence, this is a deep state, as deep as the ocean. And that's the other thing. People don't realize how deep this thing goes. And you don't unravel 100 years of corruption or more in a few weeks, or even in 1 year. When you have a lot of sources have been saying there have been at least up to 9 possible assassination attempts on Trump in the first year. And who knows how many more. We've had unbelievable deep state events, one after another. So we're living in very dangerous times. And you have this Soros with billions of dollars and this whole thing that QAnon has put out there as to why the risk is there of moving too fast. So a lot of people that don't want to believe this, they don't want to hear this. They want it fast. They want it now. They want to see all this unrealistic stuff because they don't understand the plan. They don't understand the consequences of moving too fast and how this whole thing works.
From all the posts that you've been seeing, and there's like 951 now or so, who do you think has the upper hand right now? Do you think the Patriots have control, or do you think the deep state still has the control?
Well, obviously, this would be my opinion. QAnon has been saying, Q has been saying all along that we have full control, that the Patriots have full control. We do know also, right, Dave, that in December 21st of last year, we had Trump passing an executive order to seize the property of anyone involved in human trafficking or money laundering and all these crimes, international crimes. We know that Trump has been cleaning house one country at a time. We know he went to, right after the Las Vegas shooting, and this whole thing would come before the storm. One of the first things we saw was this house cleaning, this mass arrest going on in Saudi Arabia. Then we had, now we have this whole thing with North Korea now, right? Which Q talked about a week in advance, how things were going to change there. And you have other countries, Q talking about Australia and all these, one country at a time. We could go through different regions, but the end result of this is, well, I believe that the Patriots are in control, and because of how desperate the deep state, when they're, because of what stuff that you and I were talking about a minute ago with the censorship and with these events, they're doing everything they possibly can. They're not even hiding, meaning the deep state. They're not hiding their position. They're acting like you would expect a cornered animal to act when you're about to be destroyed. You're in the corner. So that's how they're acting. So based on that, that to me is a confirmation that they are with their backs against the wall, and that would confirm to me what Q is saying regarding the Patriots being in control. Of course, I could be wrong about that, but that's how I'm seeing it now.
Yeah, we were talking before the interview, the pre-interview talk. We were talking about censorship and things like that. And what's very interesting is that one of his new posts he came out with says extreme efforts to censor. So it looks like Q and those patriots realize what is going on, that there is a push, and if I'm reading this right, to censor those people that want to speak out.
Absolutely. And Q also said a week before all this YouTube censorship began, not to mention the Facebook, right, is putting out these algorithms now, all of it, which was exposed, by the way, by Project Veritas. We saw these people on video saying they were going to do this. But about a week before all the censorship occurred following the Parkland shooting, you had Q saying that, hey, archive everything. And no one even caught that. He told you right to your face, you better archive everything now. So if you kind of read into that, I think that was another clue that he was saying he knew, or they knew, that this type of censorship was coming. But Q also has recently been focusing and hammering away at this Internet Bill of Rights that a lot of people following this are not paying attention to. But this is a whole nother topic in itself. A lot of people are, the danger here is that people just want these Q updates to read them just to be entertained, whereas Q is actually trying to tell you what you need to do next. So everyone should be asking themselves, am I doing this thing that Q is mentioning? Because he's telling everyone to hashtag Internet Bill of Rights, and he's telling you why, because this is something they are very afraid of, the deep state. They're terrified of an actual Internet Bill of Rights, which would neutralize, Dave, everything they're doing. Imagine if we didn't have to worry about being censored. Bring on the next deep state event. We're going to expose it in real time. So this Internet Bill of Rights is a big, big deal.
Well, let me ask you this. I understand the Internet Bill of Rights, but if we already have the Bill of Rights that allow us for free speech, freedom of expression, why do we need one for the Internet?
Well, I think in QAnon does address this because the people who own YouTube and Twitter and Facebook and all these platforms, they're considered private companies. And these private companies are saying, look, it's, this is our private platform. We can do whatever we want to. Here's our rules of behavior, and oh, look at that. You're like, I was banned by PayPal about a week ago, and I shared that with my audience. And it says right there in the email, due to the nature of your activities. It doesn't say anything else. So at least they admit it, that due to the nature of my activities, my account's being terminated, my PayPal account. But they didn't say, well, you're violating the Constitution, because they don't have to. They are private companies. So the Internet Bill of Rights, as I see it, well, it's right there. The purpose is to turn this from a private platform and make this platform accountable as if it were a public platform where you would apply the Bill of Rights, the one you're talking about. So that they're trying to remove that protection from these private companies.
And Q wants us to spread the word around and to push this
awareness
to everyone, I say,
of the Internet Bill of Rights, because he says in one post, which I don't have in front of me, that this is the thing that scares them the most. But he also says that it's going to be done, and he also says that the era of mainstream media is over. So, in other words, the deep state is putting all their cards on the internet and social media. And don't look now. I just saw the other day where you have the Young Turks on YouTube spreading deep state lies every day. They just got, I don't know if it was 5 million or 20 million, something like 20 million people donating to them. And then you have, I read today, I believe it was on Breitbart, where now you have Facebook unleashing this algorithm, which conveniently has seen CNN's traffic like more than quadruple or like 30 times some crazy amount of the. In other words, this algorithm is benefiting CNN, and then all conservative, a lot of the website, conveniently, when on people's Facebooks, the traffic to those sites has dramatically decreased. So it's all right there for people to see, the obvious nature of what's happening.
Now, another thing that Q keeps putting out there, saying that this is the show. Do you want to play a game? Let's play the game. What does that mean? What?
Oh, yeah, sure. And what that, and I want people, it's a good question. People don't realize that a lot of times QAnon or Q is talking to to you and I, but there are times when he's not speaking to us, like when he's speaking to Snowden. And I made a video about this whole thing with Snowden. So I think when he says that, he's talking to the enemy. And that's a lot of people, some people catch it. Not everyone catches that. A lot of time he says, or he'll post some military codes, knowing pretty well that you and I, the average person, doesn't know. Like, why is he posting these codes, that make no sense to us? And I think he's talking to the enemy because he knows, and he'll tell you they are watching. He'll usually say right before that or right after that, hey, they are watching. So people should be aware of the context of what Q is doing. So that's a good question. I'm glad you asked that. I think a lot of times he's talking directly to them. Let's play a game. He did that with the chess. I think it was in December, right? Let's play chess, but he's not talking to us. He's talking to the enemy.
So basically, there are times that he's talking to those people looking at the board, and sometimes he's talking to the deep state.
Exactly, because he knows that they're watching. And in fact, you'll see him periodically say, board secured. The board needs to be secured. And there's this cat and mouse going on, spy versus spy. Again, this whole thing is deeper than most people realize, and I'm glad you're asking me these questions and bringing me onto your show today to discuss this. There's elements that are much deeper that to the average person, they don't get it. And there you go. That is the reason why they're moving slow. And I'll even throw this into the mix. The Q also posted just the other day, I believe it was March 10th, when he said, we went too deep, attempt a pullback, not ready, right out of Q. Right there, exactly what I'm saying. He put out some stuff about the Nazis and the connections that are coming that people are not going to be able to wrap their heads around. And then he said, pull it back. They're not ready for it. I guess they have a way of gauging the reaction of people on HN, and they're maybe they're using some AI to help them out. I don't know, but they're gauging the reaction of the public, and based on that, they're realizing even with that topic, which is I'm ready for that. You probably are too, but a lot of people.
You're talking about the Angela Dorothy Kastner, Angela Merkel, about this whole Nazi connection,
right? I assume that's what Q is talking because that's what he's referring to, because soon after that, on post number 944, he said went too deep. Because someone had posted, anyone mentioned NWO referencing, and it was a German name, Naturlich, I can't pronounce it. And then comma right. Says the National Economic Order. So then he said went too deep, attempt to pull back, not ready. So a lot of people can read into that however they will, but clearly the pace of the information coming out is a big deal. It means a lot to the patriots that are posting. Inside there, these people that call themselves QAnon. But the pace, there's a reason for it. There's a reason for them not coming wide open and showing you Hillary in handcuffs. And because the deep state is real, they are watching. They have weapons. They have these cells all over the country. You and I were talking before this. You're looking at how they're brainwashing the young people now. They're all coming out against the Second Amendment. So that takes a lot of years of conditioning. So they have a lot of people under their control, and they can unleash we saw Antifa last year going crazy. And we don't know whether they derailed that one train a few months ago or not, but they said they were going to derail trains. You get into, and then we're looking at all these deep state events. So I think they feel that the price to pay is too much, not only from on the violent left and the deep state unleashing even more violence, but also you have people that can't quite get this. It's too much for them. So they don't, which is why QAnon, more than anything else, QAnon often says, trust the plan, and he also says all the time, you have more than what you know. So I ask people, consider those two phrases before you proceed any further.
So what does he mean? Like, you have more than what you know? Like, maybe you can explain that to me.
If you look at all the postings since the end of October, Q has already dropped bombs on almost every topic that you can think of. I mean, he talked about JFK, 9/11. We've talked about the slave gardens. Now these children, how about recently, last week, talking about these children in Hollywood that are raised with these foster parents, that they become stars inside of Hollywood, and they are these children from these slaves, stuff that no one could ever imagine. He's blown open essentially things like pedophilia gate and the global human trade, and he's pointed to things about Obama and his corruption and the Clinton Foundation and their connections with all these different criminal entities in these countries, and the gun running and Hezbollah and ISIS. And you have Antifa. Why do you think he's always referring to Antifa like, why do you think they rolled out Antifa? And he's giving you these hints. So I think he says, all these things since October, the average person, and at one point, right, didn't he say I believe it was last November or in December, that if people could see the reality of what is to be revealed, you would probably not even be able to sleep at night. He said something to that effect. So I think he's basically saying, if you could only see how deep this is, we've given you so much, but maybe you're still not getting how deep the very things we've given you. You don't understand. Like, we've given you enough to research for you to have your head spinning. And most people probably don't even do the research. They just wait for the next podcast from either you or someone else, Truth and Art or whoever.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm sure this goes really, really deep, and people, if they did, just give everyone all the information, people, it would be almost like, the movie Matrix, people would pop. They wouldn't be able to handle what is being said because they're stuck in their own little world. Everyone is stuck, believing, whatever they were taught to believe, and telling them that, no, this is the way it really is. I really don't think the population would be able to handle it, because I think most of the people are completely asleep. They're not really paying attention to this or anything else. They're just going about their everyday lives. And I think it would be very, very difficult for them.
Very difficult. It doesn't fit their paradigm. And forget the people that believe mainstream media news and, the average person out there. I just look at people that are following my channel. Just on any one of these channels, if you look at some of the comments, unbelievable. But I address this every week on my channel. If you don't believe in the nation state and you truly, truly believe that anarchy is the way to go, which, by the way, has never worked throughout human history. But all that said, and nation states have been around for thousands of years, and they'll be around for even more now. But if you believe that humans can self-determine, which I'm all for that, but you don't believe that it should involve a nation state ruled for and by the people, a small government, if you don't believe in that structure, you're not going to believe anything that comes out of Trump, or especially somebody calling themselves Q. So in your world, it must be a psyop. So you're going to reinforce that no matter what it takes. And when you look at the Q post, you're looking for a mistake. You're not looking for an answer. Big difference between somebody that's looking for any little tiny mistake or something that Q suggested that maybe didn't happen. There it is. I told you it was a psyop. And so you're living in that world, constantly trying to confirm to yourself that it's a psyop. And then you have other people that don't even know it's happening at all, right? So that is the reason why this thing is going to go slow, because it's just, I don't know. I guess this is who we are as human beings until you get that 100th monkey. But this is a big deal because a lot of patriots and a lot of conservatives are catching on, and this is a big threat to the deep state. And that, Dave, is the reason why they are fighting for the internet to remove all channels and anyone from Facebook, Twitter, shadow ban them, all the stuff that it's all coming out to light now, right? That is the reason, because they know we don't need mainstream media to wake everyone up, to wake up the majority, get that 100th monkey. We don't need it. We can do it with the internet. they see these channels like Mark Dice and all these other channels with millions of followers, they know this is a big problem.
I just wanted to touch on something that Q continually said about November 11th, 2018, Veterans Day, having a parade. I know when Trump mentioned it, the corporate media went crazy. We can't have a military parade. That's ridiculous. But in Q's post saying that everything up from now until then, a lot of these things will be taken care of, and this parade will be a parade that we'll never forget. In your mind and what you have researched, what do you think they're going to do on November 11th? And I know it's the 100th anniversary of World War I when the war came to an end, but what do you think they're going to do on that date?
Well, I think the danger lies in over reading too much into something that Q posts. A lot of time, this parade is, I could see Trump doing it. I mean, they were talking about doing this already, right? That they wanted a parade. I think this is, Trump is, the people that haven't figured out Trump by now should really try, because as I'm telling my audience all the time, Trump is the deal maker. That's the tricky thing about Trump. And, look no further than when he said during the, following Parkland, he said, for a minute there, he threw a bone, right, at of Dianne Feinstein. Yeah, maybe, we'll look into gun control. And then the next day he's hanging out with his NRA buddies. But a lot of people said, oh my God, this is dangerous. But anyway, back to your question. So I think this is Trump, kind of like the whole thing with Israel, saying, Jerusalem, we're going to recognize. He likes to do things that are extreme, he knows will irritate the deep state and especially the liberal left. He purposely, and so what would irritate the liberal left more than a military parade? So to kind of get closer to answering your question, I think, the whole thing with Q is, to me, a message of hope. And I tell people, even if half the stuff he says doesn't happen or whatever, the patriots are trying to expose evil. Everyone should be in favor of that. Instead of calling it a psyop, why don't you just stick around and hope that this is true? Because what's wrong with exposing pedophilia and criminals all over the world? So, but anyway, this military parade, I think, is he's saying, look, this is so sure. This is a day that we're going to celebrate all the veterans, and I think it's a reminder that this is, I believe, not everyone agrees with me, but this whole thing is a military movement. This thing started with people inside the military saying, we got to get this done. We got to take down the deep state, and this is how we're going to do it. And that's when they introduced Trump. They told Trump what was going to go down, and they rolled him out to the general public. So, and I believe this is symbolic. This parade will be symbolic, saying, not that it say that it's all, this is the day, we're done. We're always going to have to keep fighting. But I think rolling out the military parade will be a sort of celebration to either the first or second or a certain phase of this victory that will, I think they envision this war, this plan that Q keeps talking about is probably an 8-year plan altogether to completely restore America and the world. And, I'm talking as far as trade and all these things. So
you think this is going to have to go on another 4 years, like after his first term as president, he's going to have to get reelected, and this is going to go on further.
Yeah, I think especially from an economic standpoint and foreign policy wise. Yeah, I think it's a long-term plan. I think they realize that they can't even afford to let the Democrats take the White House again. And that is the reason why Q has already told us. He even posted a portion of a memo that will be coming out in case people have forgotten. There is a memo coming out to expose the corruption of the election corruption of the 2016 presidential election. A report, I believe, regarding how DHS was involved in basically stealing the votes for Hillary, and all this whole report coming out about the elections. And you have this movement. I think they're going to hand the elections to the Trump's DHS to clean that whole thing out. So we're going to see a lot more about this as we get closer to the 2020 elections.
So you think this report about the elections that's coming out, it's going to really break down what happened, that there was manipulation within the election system. They're going to have to produce facts because you know what the corporate media is going to do. The deep state who runs the corporate media, they're going to tear it apart unless it's hard facts. And
well, I'll say this, Dave. We already saw what they're going to do. Look no further than the FISA memos. It's the same thing. Q was saying, look, the memo's coming. Check it out. It's coming. It's coming. And then when it came out, you had Fox News, Sean Hannity, and covering this stuff. All these people at Fox News, you know, Sarah Carter and all these investigators blowing it wide open. Public knowledge. Look at this. Everything they did to try to blame Trump, you know, the Trump-Russia collusion was based on this phony memo, this laughable, totally trumped-up memo of salacious lies. So this came out, and right in your face, we had Adam Schiff and the rest of the Democrats saying, "Oh, well, this is propaganda." So yeah, you're right. They're going to do the exact same thing. But this is why now someone pointed out just in the video where Q is pointing us to not too long ago this technology that the deep state has their hands on to make it seem like someone speaking. You know, you could take a video of someone talking and then put someone else's face on there and make it look like they're the ones saying it. You know, all this crazy technology now. So now the deep state and their mainstream media, they're rolling out these stories now through the New York Times saying, look, fake videos are coming soon. So, and someone pointed out very astutely that I believe, I agree with this person that put this out, saying that this could very well be a precursor. In other words, the deep state is already preparing what they're going to say when these videos come out. And you and I haven't even gotten into the whole thing with WikiLeaks and videos that are coming out, audio tapes and videos. They're going to drop bombs on the deep state that the deep state will not be able to stop. This goes beyond the FISA memo, beyond the election corruption memo. And then you have another memo coming out, right, on Hillary, HRC, that QAnon is letting us know it's coming through the pipe. So much is coming out this year, Dave. This is why Q is saying the year will be glorious. But you're right. The deep state will be right there trying to say that everything's fake, and no one believes their mainstream media. So that's why they're trying to control the internet, because they're going to need everything they can to stop this storm that's coming, including these videos. So we're suspecting, a lot of us, that the deep state's going to say, what, a video on camera with Hillary or Podesta saying what? Don't believe that. That's some video technology that the right is conjuring up. Don't believe it. They're already working on that.
So they're getting prepared with this technology where you can have someone else's face, move facial movements and have someone else speak. And
QAnon is already warning us that they will fail. They will try this, but it's not going to work. We're going to bring them down anyway. But they're already working on this narrative. People should check that out. One of the Q posts, I forget which one, but it's an article from the New York Times very recently, within the last week, where they're rolling this out. And they're telling, already you can see they are working on this narrative because they know that videos and audios are coming out that they are not going to be able to get around.
Bernie, do you think the deep state is getting ready for maybe another false flag?
I think these false flags occur when they're trying to distract the public from something else. So at this point, they are so desperate, Dave, that I call them deep state events. They could happen any day now. Absolutely.
Bernie, thank you very much for being on the X22 Report Spotlight. Once again, how can people see your work?
People can see my work on my website, truthandarttv.com, or they can visit any one of my 2 YouTube channels. My primary channel is Truth and Art TV, with words spelt normally with the spaces between each word. And my secondary channel, which I opened up about 2 weeks ago when I got 2 strikes in my primary channel, is also called Truth and Art TV, but all one word with no spaces. So, and then on that channel, people can follow and see how they can support and follow the project.
And I'll put all those links at the bottom of the video to make it easier for people to get over to your channel. So they just have to click on it, bring them right over.